wages have been increasing across the past quarter, yet what we're noticing in the tech ecosystem is that there are layoffs day after day after day.
No matter what your company is, you're not a company of one person, and you have to be able to support the people around you.
Every leader needs to be aligned with their own executive teams and ensuring that the revenue targets are appropriate for the market conditions and that there's a cash burn target as well that folks are held accountable to.
Well, thanks so much, Jennie, for joining me today on Scaling with People. I'm super excited to have you. For those watching, Jennie is a strategic and operational people leader who's been driving organizational transformations for startups, scale-ups, and Fortune 500 companies. She's currently a VP of People and Culture at 15Five, where she leads the organization's people operation functions, ensuring that 15Five is an exceptional workplace in the areas of talent acquisition, talent development, total rewards, whole people well-being, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Her two biggest passions are building high-performing teams with inclusion cultures and helping people maximize their potential through coaching and development. So welcome, Jennie. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Guinevere. It's really great to be here with you.
So today I want to talk about what challenges startup companies are seeing in today's economy. From your perspective, what are you seeing?
Great. And before I dive into that question, Guinevere, my thought is sharing a bit of background around 15Five and how I've been here for the evolution of the company. And so 15Five is a human-centered performance management platform with solutions to help increase engagement, performance, and manager effectiveness at any organization. And I've been at 15Five for almost 5 years. I started in 2018, and I started as the leader of our customer success team. And a month in, we were raising our Series A. And so a month in, I was heads deep in due diligence. And then it was incredible because I got to grow and scale that team from 3 to 19 people within a year. And and I was actually employee 34 at the time. And so I've seen 15Five grow from 34 people to now we're 260 people across the US, as well as we have some contractors in the EU as well. And so, yeah, it's been wonderful to witness the growth, definitely in the startup phase. Through scale up, we raised our Series C round of funding last summer of 2022. And I would say that this climate is definitely a quintessential example of VUCA conditions: volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And so many leaders, particularly in the tech industry, are feeling this. I interestingly came across a study where we noticed that wages have been increasing across the past quarter. Yet what we're noticing in the tech ecosystem is that there are layoffs day after day after day at tech organizations. And so I feel that it feels like a self-fulfilling prophecy to me when it comes to tech companies tightening their budgets, therefore needing to consolidate their tech stacks and facilitating layoffs and reductions in forces, and ultimately leading to impacting the tech companies that a lot of their business depends on renewals and subscription contracts from other tech companies. And so the self-fulfilling prophecy is seeing that as tech companies are tightening up their budgets, then they need to contract their number of licenses, or they need to completely leave the vendor. And so it's been a struggle, honestly. And I feel that leaders are needing to not only look at their broader product strategies. One, do I have product market fit with the broader market right now? And two, is what I'm providing, the software or the services, are they providing ROI? How might I prove the ROI? And then three, looking at costs, right? Because the one factor that is controllable within a leadership team's control is cash burn. And so I think looking at those three elements, every leader needs to, be aligned with their own executive teams and ensuring that there's specific, the revenue targets are appropriate for the market conditions, and that there's a cash burn target as well that folks are held accountable to.
Yeah, really well said. I think it is a prophecy for sure in regards to just we're all supporting each other, and then we all have to tighten our belts. And now where does that leave us, right? It's more tightening of the belts as we go along. So in regards to that, in creating a culture, like 15-5 is all about feedback and performance and coaching and training. So how can a small startup, especially in the economy that we're in right now, create this culture of coaching and developing when they may have limited or even no funds to do so?
I love that question, because a lot of the times I'm putting out to my team, how might we accomplish this with zero cost? How might we get creative here, right? And I love, having the constraint of, not having a budget against something, of the creativity that can happen afterwards. And so I would say that, honestly, it's looking at your team. Like, who do you have on board right now who has a coaching background? Surprisingly, at 15-5, we have a large portion of our team that actually has a coaching certification, or they might have gone through a coaching program, or it's something that they're just interested in developing. And so maximizing the skill set and competencies of the folks that you have internally, and who might have capacity to build up a homegrown program internally. Something that I'm personally passionate about is peer coaching, and how might we create groups where folks of certain roles and levels are, in this container together, and being able to learn from each other of, the challenges that they face on a day-to-day basis, and being able to share best practices and worst practices and lessons, and reflect with one another.
I love that. Some companies call them tiger teams or cohorts, right? Of people who are getting together and learning from one another and supporting each other through the challenges. That's a great idea, to just see who in your organization is a fit for you in regards to maybe having that coaching background, maybe having some experience being part of that kind of cohort, who could help lead maybe a management ambassador group or something to that extent, right? Depending on what kind of coaching you're looking for. Yeah.
And I would say I'll add on to that, where really it's, moving into a more modern management approach, where leveraging your managers as coaches as well, and teaching them the skills of active listening and asking questions, right? Having their team members inquire a bit more around how they might improve a certain process or the way that they're doing their work. I feel that, managers are definitely in a unique position where they have direct access, right, to being that coach for a team member, or being a coach to a peer, or even, upward coaching for their own manager. And so that in itself is, low cost, no cost as well.
That's great. And so a kind of follow up to that, why do you think, or what, I guess maybe is the right question, is the benefit of creating this type of culture? And why do you think it's important to try to get co-founders and CEOs of small businesses, startup companies who are small now, implementing this type of culture?
I feel that as humans, fundamentally, we are meant to grow. And if we don't grow, then effectively we die. Whether I think just humans in general just have this unique potential, where we have this brain capacity and this brain elasticity of being able to shift our mindset, and to be able to absorb new learnings and learn from lessons and mistakes. That is what we call a growth mindset, right? Of being able to admit of, oh, wow, I've made a mistake. What can I learn from this to do better next time? And so, I believe that an organization's success is contingent on people's and leaders, founders, CEOs, executive teams, their ability to learn and learn from each other, to learn from their own mistakes, and to essentially iterate from those mistakes to make better decisions for the business going forward.
Yeah, I think through that, they also find that they are more connected as individuals and will end up going towards each other to collaborate more frequently. And the more collaboration you have, the better off that product or whatever is being done will be, right? In the sense of like you get multiple mindsets, multiple viewpoints, and you're able to build a stronger team for it. I also find that another good benefit is really building a strong, high-performing team or company that can withstand the challenges that we're going through right now with the microeconomics and the layoffs that are happening inside the tech, right? Like it's obviously cost or cost, but if you can find a way where you're creating a culture where it's really strong performers, they're going to help you get through this without having to do massive layoffs or maybe no layoffs at all. And that's really like, I think that's the challenge that we have as a people organization. How can we support companies to not actually make these people impacting decisions? How can we make it be so that the companies are stronger and can thrive through these downturns in a way that keeps the company intact and whole?
100%. Yeah, that's what I call talent density, right? Of having a high performance culture paired alongside high care. So talent density is this concept that Patty McCord developed at Netflix, where really the people that you want to be collaborating with are also people who inspire you, right? These are folks who are at the pinnacle of their craft and they are driving results for the organization and they inspire you to get better. They are self-driven, self-motivated, intrinsically motivated to do an incredible job and be a team player and drive results for the company. And so, that's definitely an evolution at 15.5 where, I think in a lot of businesses have where they have extreme high care for the person, right? And, at the same time, it's like having a high bar for performance and pairing that together. And I believe that when, to your point, Guinevere, you are able to sustain through these tough times together because you can trust one another, and that like even though that customers may be churning, you all want to be able to apply that collaborative solutioning together and problem solving of like, okay, well, we're losing this customer. How might we, retain other customers, of like sizes or like use cases in the future, and being able to put everyone's, mind and heart power together to solve problems.
Absolutely. And another thing that came to mind when you were saying that was empowering the employees, right? Like, so one of my clients right now, they're going through a huge change in how they're marketing their company. And they're not having that just be this marketing function, right? They've made this huge project that every department's involved in, and people have volunteered across the whole org, and really getting the employees involved, using a tool that helps them be able to get into the employees network, be able to invite employees to be a revenue generating individual, right? The revenue is not just on the sales team, and it's everybody in the org. But you don't see orgs empowering everybody outside of the sales team to go and be a sales marketing revenue generating person. And so I think that's another key too, is if we're collaborating with each other, then we understand the business better and we understand how to sell the business. And I'm not expected to go out and win a client, but if I can have a conversation and make a connection to my sales team, and that turns into a client, what a great win, right? And really kind of putting that mindset of ownership and empowering all employees at all levels to be in that capacity, I think is really important, especially in a time that we're in right now where, selling is not as easy as it was 2, 3, 4 years ago, right?
100%. And I think, you and I were talking about how it's performance review season for a lot of us HR people leaders. And, I think the common struggle for an organization is for non-revenue generating roles. It's like, how do you quantify the impact of those team members, right? And a contemplation that I've had too is, what is the direct impact that a people team has on customer success and customer outcomes, right? And my team has the privilege to be in a place where we are actually the customer ourselves. And so really our goal is to create value and deliverables and resources that other HR and people leaders can leverage, right, to help them drive towards some of their outcomes, their desired HR outcomes, like reducing regrettable turnover or maximizing employee performance or increasing employee engagement or increasing manager effectiveness. So I definitely hear you on that, of ensuring that, all team members, from the front line all the way up to the executive, understand how they are impacting customer outcomes and success, particularly of how the customers are getting value out of the product or service.
Yeah, that's so true. So I know you are also a coach on the side. So from this perspective of creating a culture of development, coaching, mentoring, from your coaching days and your experience, like what is some of the benefits that companies can see from bringing in a coach, whether it's a one-on-one for executives, even manager levels? What have you seen be some of the outcomes, the positive outcomes of bringing in a coach?
I see so many positive outcomes and significant ROI here. So personally, I believe that a coach provides another layer of accountability, of reflection, of being a mirror to other perspectives that might be within the client's purview, but not actually like within the frame of the day-to-day limited thinking. And so what a coach's role is really unlocking the resources that a client already has internally by asking really thoughtful questions, to dig a little bit deeper into what might be holding the client back from getting what they want or driving the results that they want. And so to me, that leads to not only success for the individual, but also success for the business and results being driven. I have gone through several coaching engagements as the coach as well as the client, being in the client seat. And I have to say candidly that sometimes the coach is like a therapist too, right? And what I've noticed as a coach of corporate clients is that a lot of the times the coaching is actually around relational dynamics, how to navigate relational dynamics within an organization, or how to have a better relationship with a manager, or how a co-founder can be partnering more effectively with their other co-founder, et cetera. And so that's the theme that I've noticed, is a lot of the coaching is actually about being a sounding board around how to navigate relational dynamics and to ensure that the relationships are sound and impactful and effective.
I love that. It is a relationship business, no matter what your company is. You're not a company of one person, and you have to be able to support the people around you. And one of the things I find very interesting when I'm talking to a lot of CEO, co-founder, founder individuals is they struggle to bring people along in the decision-making process and where the company's going. And if they can just learn how to do that, transparency, yes, but just helping people understand where you're thinking, why you're thinking that way, where you're going, where you want the company to go, how everyone can help support that. It really does make a difference in people getting on board and understanding and being excited about where the company is going, right? You want people to be engaged, and being part of that conversation really engages people. And I think that's the relationship piece is so key.
Yeah. And to your point about cascading communications, because I think a lot of the times, executives and leaders, they are 5 steps ahead of the general group of people, where they have an idea and it's like, okay, I'm already there, right? And so the journey of a founder or an executive is really to take people along with you on the journey, right? And I loved when I was in the Bay Area. My husband worked at IDEO, and IDEO is this renowned design agency from firm where they have this practice of human-centered design, and human-centered design is about talking to the customer, talking to the end user of a product, and getting a ton of qualitative and quantitative feedback about it, so that what you build and prototype actually meets the needs of users. And so I love applying, and I always encourage leaders to apply human-centered design when they are thinking through initiatives that really impact the organization, and getting inputs from folks, so that when something is rolled out, that they actually have context and already some buy-in into what's being rolled out.
Yeah. And actually that brings me to my next question. When you're talking about human center and really the employee population, what I've seen lately in the news, and you probably have too, is a lot of the layoffs that are happening, especially on the tech front, are, you may or may not see the list. It includes a lot of DEIB individuals and or teams. And you're seeing that a lot of companies are downsizing and or maybe eliminating altogether this function inside of the people org. Because obviously everyone is tightening up their belts, there might not be necessarily a way to salvage that or say that if a company is impacted that way, or may not even have a DEIB function yet because they're so small as a startup, what are some simple ways that a startup can focus on implementing or focusing on DEIB, or challenging even their managers and team members, especially when they may not have a budget, but want to create that inclusive culture inside of their organization?
100%. So love the question. And yes, unfortunately, a lot of our key HR functions tend to go first on the list, right, for a particular layoff, such as recruiting or DEIB. And I'm in the camp of, are you a traditional type of organization or old school organization where executives or leadership do not understand the ROI of DEIB? Or are you a more modern organization, realizing that, it's humans that are driving the results and the outcomes of the organization, actually have feelings, and they have aspirations, and at the end of the day, as humans, we want to feel seen, heard, and valued. I read recently, I've been looking into trauma, and how trauma actually starts with as a child, where it gets etched into your system when you don't feel seen, heard, or valued, or you don't feel known. And so I think a lot of DEIB work is about this, right? Is that we honor each of our own unique identities as humans, and the various, again, unique backgrounds that we have. And so from my perspective, it is actually more important during these times to ensure that folks feel included, to ensure that folks have a sense of psychological safety, because honestly, fear is running through, any worker at a tech company is feeling fear. I mean, I feel it too, right? It's in the waters, it's in our collective consciousness right now. And so how might we ground our organizations and our people in this sense of embodied psychological safety, that, I will be okay no matter what happens. And at the same time, feeling valued by the organization, right? If an organization, in fact, has to run a layoff or do a reduction in force, it's like the folks that you've got left, like you need to ensure that they are engaged, right? To continue driving the results for the business, to carry you through, these macroeconomic conditions. And so investing in these folks is pertinent, and DEIB is definitely one of those investments.
Absolutely. And diving in, I know you're working for 15.5, and I'm a big fan of the platform myself. And I think one of the tools that people could use if they're on 15.5 or are looking for a performance tool such as 15.5, you guys have your career hub. And inside of that, the first thing that it does is ask the employees to kick off what's called best self. And it's a way for, it's just basically a questionnaire about who that person is, in a way that is able to open up a conversation between managers and the individual. So the individual and manager can have this relationship more than just, oh, what did you watch for TV over the weekend, right? But more meaningful questions to get to know one another. I really love that feature. Do you have any insight into why that was created, or any other additional comments you want to add about it? Because I think it's a great tool.
I love, Guinevere, that you brought it up and that you're such a huge fan, because I am too. I love it. And this is called the Best Self Kickoff. And actually, we have had this practice at 15.5 since 2018. So this stemmed from research, and we had a people scientist who was really passionate about positive product design. And from her research, she essentially found that, relationship building between a manager and employee is key to both the employee and manager success in the role. And so this Best Self Kickoff is essentially, to your point, a questionnaire and a framework where an employee and manager can get their relationship started off from more of a human standpoint, right? Some of these questions are not necessarily questions you would ask in a professional setting without being prompted. So, one of the questions is, who would you like to have a meal with, of anyone, in the world? Or, another question is, if you could just wake up one day with a skill, what would it be? Other questions of, what does your ideal weekend day look like? And so, they're fun questions that elicit more of personal rapport building between an employee and manager. And so I love kicking it off. Literally, I will do it on a person's first day with a team member, or anytime that someone gets promoted or they get transitioned to a new manager. We always recommend having that Best Self Kickoff within the first 2 weeks. And I personally like doing it on the first day that we meet, because it just, gets the relationship off, on the right foot.
Yeah. And the reason why I bring that up is because if you know a little bit more about the individual that is reporting to you, or that you're reporting to the manager, right? It creates this environment of learning and understanding who we are as human beings, and creating that space, if we're doing it right, where people feel safe to come to work as who they are, and show up in a very inclusive environment, because you're creating those moments where you're getting to learn about, oh, you like to square dance, or, oh, you're going out and rapping, or whatever it is that you're doing, on your hobbies or your perfect day. Like, I just find that it really opens it up and creates that space to be your authentic self. Mm-hmm. And I think without that, it's really a hard hill or mountain to climb to create an inclusive environment if you don't actually know your people. Mm-hmm. But knowing your people in a way that you've created a safe space for them to share who they are, right? It's not like, oh, you fall in this category, and so I'm going to ask you, like, why do you do your hair that way, or why do you wear your clothes that way, or whatever, right? Like, why do you eat that kind of food, whatever it might be, right? And so if you're doing it more authentically, of just wanting to get to know the person, it creates a safe space, which I think, a lot of managers do struggle with, especially in a very legal related world, where if I ask this question, am I going to get sued, right? So that's what I love about this platform. It creates that space, safe space for you to get to know one another. So yeah.
I love that for me.
Any other like tricks or tips or simple things that come to mind from your perspective on how a founder, co-founder, startup, CEO could implement some simple things to help create that safe space, to create the inclusive environment?
Mm-hmm. Well, my first tip that's coming to mind is learning how to be present.
Mm.
That is the work that I have done to truly listen to someone. I think a lot of times when we are asked a question or in conversation or in dialogue or in a team meeting, we're often thinking in our own heads about what we're going to say, or we're just contemplating, the topic at hand. And so from my perspective, presence is key to creating a safe space so that the other person feels seen, heard, and valued. And it takes a lot of work because our minds are monkey minds and they love to go around in circles and think about all these different threads. And so my advice and, really it is learning to notice when your brain is, running all over the place and there's thoughts going everywhere, and just leveraging your breath as an anchor to drop into your body and to drop into the present moment, especially when you are, connecting with a team member or connecting with a peer. I feel that it's the quality of the dialogue and the quality of the relationship can only, be maximized when there is presence.
I really love that comment about breath, because I've done this with a couple of clients of mine, and when I'm running a team, and I don't always do it because I'm human too and I'm not perfect, but just when you're running, like especially when you're running from meeting to meeting to meeting, you're got a lot going on. You've got a household where maybe you got parents or kids or spouse or pets or whatever, you're just going kind of constant, right? And so when you get into a meeting, either before or bring the people who are in your meeting to join you for just like, hey guys, let's just have a moment here. We're gonna just recenter, take a breath, and like just be in the moment, just bring ourselves to what this meeting is about. And I have found that has been so beneficial. It takes not even a minute, right? Just asking everyone to just take 2 or 3 deep breaths, just take a moment to like let your brain settle, focus in on what we're going to be talking about, because you probably came from another meeting that now you have 20 tasks that you got to do from that meeting. From the prior meeting you had 10, right? And it's like one of those like just nonstop, like I got to get things done and I'm in back-to-back meetings. But really recentering yourself in that moment I have seen benefits from that. So I love that you called that out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I would say honoring your word, right? And essentially having integrity, and whatever you say that you're going to do, actually follow through on it.
That's huge. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many people I've been in with leadership roles that don't have that. And it's like, I'm out. I don't want to be anywhere near you if you can't keep to your word, right? I understand, like, there might be things that fall, right? Or you get distracted, or other things become higher priority, but keeping your word isn't necessarily meaning that you're gonna like, it would be great if you said, I'm going to do XYZ by such and such date, but then to come back to me and say, I'm behind and this isn't going to happen by that date, I'm going to need more time. That's integrity in and of itself, right? It doesn't necessarily mean you're keeping to the exact specific thing that you've committed to. It's keeping people informed on where you are with that commitment and why you might be behind. And that's just open communication right there. So to wrap things up here, I'd like to kind of go back to 15.5 again. Said I love this tool. I'm a partner with you guys, and I love bringing it to my clients. Why do you consider it to be a great tool, and why do you think startup CEOs should be looking at it?
Yeah, so startup CEOs need this tool to enable their managers, really. I look back to previous organizations where I was a manager and I was driving my management workflow, such as one-on-ones with team members and even reviews in Google Docs. And it just wasn't impactful. It was just, a long-running Google Doc. So it was challenging to hold folks accountable to taking action. And I feel that, really 15.5 enables managers to do their job more effectively through the reviews, through engagement, through, there's check-ins and one-on-ones, and to your point, Guinevere, there's also a career hub, right, where you can invest in your people and develop your relationship with your people and their career paths. And so I wish that I had this at previous organizations, and also as the executive sponsor of 15.5 internally, as the HR and people leader, it has helped us reduce regrettable turnover, right? And as I mentioned, performance review season, where my team is facilitating these calibration sessions for management teams, where we're getting management teams on how to define the bar of high performance and holding folks to this standard of performance. This has really up-leveled our ability to one, have a management teams be clear on what high performance looks like, who the people in our organization are the high performers and high potential folks. And so by way of that, it's allowed us to reduce regrettable attrition through identifying who these people are and investing, laser focusing and investing in these folks. And so there's ROI there for us personally. And at the same time, with the review cycle, at previous companies, there have been review cycles that I've been a part of that were run through spreadsheets. And, I feel that there's time savings when you're actually able to operationalize it through the 15.5 platform. So there's definitely cost savings there. And I think another piece that's inherent in humanity too is that we have our own bias, meaning that we have our own perspectives and there's other perspectives to take into place. And what 15.5 does help us do specifically around performance review time is being able to identify any of those leniency bias or critical rater bias or recency bias and check our managers of, hey, what you're thinking here. We're noticing that all of your team members are high performing regardless of, tenure or level. Tell us some more. And so I think from a management bias perspective too, it allows us, it's this place that allows us to the HR team or people team and also CEOs and founders to identify where there might be opportunity for growth. And yeah, I find it extremely insightful and helpful to have this system of record.
Yeah, one of my favorite tools is the one-on-one functionality. I wish I had that looking back in my career when I was working with my managers, because I would show up with my paper, with my check boxes of all the things I needed to talk to them about. And this one-on-one functionality is exactly like, I love scratching off that checkbox. There's nothing that feels better about doing that. But I will say, out of all the technology tools I've played around with, 15.5, I feel that same kind of like satisfaction of checking that item off of like, okay, we got that done or we talked about it. And I love the fact that you can add to it throughout the week or 2 weeks in between the timeframes when you and the manager are coming together. And manager can go in and quickly review, oh, I can answer that really quickly, right? And have some asynchronous conversations happening, which is really nice too. Well, thank you, Jennie. I really appreciate your time. This was such a fun topic to have. Hopefully those listening on have learned something that they can take to their business and help continue to grow the business and the people within. So thank you again, Jennie. I appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you, Guinevere, for having me. It's been a joy.
All right, and then that's where we'll cut. So, yeah, no, that was great. I was watching the time, like initially I was like, oh, I don't know if I have enough questions to get us through the 30-minute slot.
Oh, that's great.
And then it was like, oh no, we started getting going and it was great. Yeah. You really present really well, by the way.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I really enjoy being on podcasts and interviews. So yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah. And as soon as my marketing team gets this all together and tells me when it's going to go out, I'll let you know, and I'll make sure we get it all posted on LinkedIn and socialize it, and we'll tag 15.5 on it and everything. And yeah, so no, this is great. I really appreciate it. And let me know if there's anything I can do to help you. I'm behind in my email. So I saw your email come through and I haven't read it yet.
Obviously, because I didn't follow up with you since our time together in person. So.
Oh, that's okay. I know it feels like forever ago, and yet it wasn't that long ago. It wasn't even a month ago, but it just like time flies.
It does.
But yeah, I really appreciate it. I want to stay connected. And I feel like every time I talk to you, I learn something new, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate our relationship here, and want to continue to grow it.
Yeah, ditto. Absolutely. I'm available to you anytime.
All right. Well, be careful what you say.
I am. Yeah. Oh yeah. And you have my number, so I'm always game to text.
Oh, I know. That'll be great. I totally forgot I had your number, but now I remember. Yeah, I'll be texting you, but I'll be reading that email because I think that my team and I could really use some insights into best practices for holding calibrations, because I don't think we did that well this time. I think there's room for improvement.
Yeah. Great.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jennie.
We'll chat soon. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah, take
okay.
care.
Bye.